How does the cerebral cortex develop in a fetal brain? Imagine a tiny, developing brain inside the womb, busy building the foundation for all future thoughts, feelings, and actions. That's what happens with the cerebral cortex during fetal development. The process begins very early, right after conception, with the formation of the neural tube. This tube is like a simple, hollow structure that eventually becomes the brain and spinal cord. By about 6 to 7 weeks of pregnancy, this tube closes up, and the brain starts to take shape. The early brain splits into 3 main parts: the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. The cerebral cortex develops from the forebrain, which is the front part of the brain. During the first 3 months of pregnancy, the basic structure of the cerebral cortex begins to form from the neural tube. Neurons, or brain cells, start to grow and connect. These connections are the first steps toward creating the brain's wiring system. Even at this stage, the fetus can respond to stimuli, showing reflexes. Around 20 weeks of pregnancy, the cortex begins to fold. These folds, called gyri and sulci, increase the surface area of the brain, making room for more neurons and connections. This folding is a sign that the cortex is maturing. In the second trimester, the cortex grows rapidly. Neurons migrate from deep inside the brain to their proper places in the outer layers. This migration is essential because it helps organize the cortex into different layers. As neurons settle into their positions, they start forming synapses, which are the connections that allow neurons to communicate. This period is critical for establishing the neural networks needed for sensing, moving, and early thinking. The developing brain begins to create a map of connections, called the connectome, which will support all future brain functions. The third trimester continues this growth and refinement. The cortex becomes more folded and thicker. Different areas of the cortex develop at different speeds. Sensory regions like the visual and auditory cortices mature first, preparing the brain to process sights and sounds after birth. By the time the baby is born, the basic structure of the cortex is in place. However, the brain keeps developing after birth, with connections becoming stronger and more complex. Throughout pregnancy, genetics and the mother's health influence how well the cortex develops. Good nutrition and health care support healthy growth. Understanding how the cerebral cortex develops helps caregivers recognize the importance of prenatal care. It also shows why protecting the prenatal environment is key for healthy brain growth. This early development sets the stage for a child's ability to learn, move, and explore the world around them.